Hello again, everybody. Andy Kennedy along with Sean Callahan. A little signing day recap. Sean, this was a unique signing day in and of itself because it's the smallest class I can ever remember Nebraska signing just 10 players from high school.
Yeah, really one of the smaller ones probably in the history of Power 4 signing classes ever anywhere, because you can't really get much smaller than 10, and it was at 9 until they added a kicker from Australia late on Tuesday. But a lot of it is numbers and roster limits. Nebraska has 19 seniors. The roster limit is at 105 moving forward. So, you know, there's not a lot of additional spots that will open. You'll have some natural attrition as well. But I think now moving forward, the money, you have to talk about the money and recruiting and the transfer portal. And I think you'll see Nebraska, Andy, take probably around 10 players from the portal with a heavy emphasis on the offensive and defensive lines.
Yeah, guys who can immediately step in and make an impact. Now, when Husker fans look at the rankings on 3 or wherever, they might be startled when they see where Nebraska's place is in terms of the Big Ten and nationally, but people shouldn't read too much into that as just a byproduct of such a small recruiting class, right?
Yeah, the size of the class is why the ranking's where it's at. And look, if Nebraska wanted to spend all their money on high school players, they could have a top 25 class, but that is not the focus right now. I think the focus is, you know, take some guys that you really think can help your team from high school, and they did that with Danny Odom and Puma on the offensive line, and Larry Miles and Nayland Scott at receiver, Luke Sorensen, Jamal Rule. They took some young offensive linemen. I think they took a group of players, and a few they went all in on. Danny Odom is an all-in recruit. Claude Puma is an all-in recruit, meaning money. And you know, then you get some other guys that you put some money on, but not the same level. And it's almost like the NFL. You have your first round pick money, your second round pick money, and then how many other guys fall in the lower rounds and undrafted free agents.
Yeah, Matt Rule talking about wanting to find difference makers, guys who contribute right away. Jace Reynolds, the one and only recruit from the state of Nebraska out of Elkhorn North, but he's a guy Matt Rule really liked.
Yeah, Jace Reynolds came to camp, and that's a big deal to Matt Rule. You have to come to camp, work out, train, and he did that for a couple of years and, you know, earned his offer immediately after his sophomore year. So they've been in on him for a while. They really believe in him, big picture, that they can turn him into a good player. Runs really well. I know that was obviously one of the big things, how well he tested when he went to camp, and they think that there's a lot there now they can build on.
Matt Rule talked about 35 minutes on Wednesday, I should say, and a lot of the topics really didn't have anything to do with the signing day class. It had all to do with the move he made on Monday, and that was relieve John Butler of his duties. What is your take on what Matt Rule said about the defensive coordinator situation?
Yeah, I think it was kind of just a change in philosophy. I think obviously John Butler's a good coach. He's got a good background, but he's probably not the guy Matt Rule wanted to roll with moving forward for the direction he wants to take the program. So they made the move. And look, John Butler had a tough situation. They lost a lot off that defense. They didn't really adequately replace it as well in the portal. And, you know, they struggle. I mean, I think we knew from the get-go they were going to have issues up front. They were going to have issues with the pass rush. And those were kind of the stories we dealt with every week. Now, I don't think it was a surprise to anyone. You hope, though, that they could have gotten better, and they probably played their worst football the last 2 weeks of the year against Matt Rule's alma mater and then Nebraska's rival. Not a good combination to go into Thanksgiving with.
Tough taste to finish out the regular season, losing those 2 games by those margins, I should say. Talking about replacing the defensive coordinator, you got a juggling act. You're trying to find a new DC, and yet you got to turn the page and get ready for this bowl game no matter where you go. How is Matt Rule managing this situation?
Well, his phone's going to ring, and it has rang already as far as candidates interested in the job. I mean, they can pay money. They're going to be able to get somebody good. I think the bigger question is, hey, who is it going to be? But then how many coaches might that guy want to bring with them? We know Addison Williams, the defensive backs coach, is safe. He's going to be a part of the staff. But I think there could be more movement on this defensive staff. It just depends on how things go with who this hire is.
Yeah, and a lot of coaches, head coaches, would wait to make this move until after signing day. Not Matt Rule. He does it Monday to give John Butler a little longer runway, but also to let people know, hey, there's a defensive coordinator opportunity here at Nebraska. Now, how do they get ready for this bowl game without a defensive coordinator?
Well, Phil Snow, who has been Matt Rule's defensive coordinator for like 20 years, is here. So he will kind of run the show. And I kind of look at it as like the Bill Bush model, where I'm sure he's going to really simplify things. When Bill Bush took over for Eric Chenander, and get this group to play faster and play harder. One of the nuggets Matt Rule dropped is we weren't playing hard. And under Tony White, they played hard as a unit. They were always all over the place. They hit hard. They tackled well. We just didn't see that, and maybe that was guys thinking too much. Maybe that was a lack of talent. I don't really know why that was the case, but I know he wants this group to play hard. I think that will be the number one priority. Mike Eckler's a part of this defensive staff now for the bowl game, and guys are going to play hard for Mike Eckler.
No question about it. And don't think that Matt Rule won't have his handprints all over this defensive game plan as they get ready for their bowl game coming up over the holidays. I want to ask you about quarterback as we wrap up. The situation is kind of fluid. Obviously, no Dylan Raiola. He's going to be rehabbing that broken leg. But TJ Lateef, that was kind of a news nugget that got sprinkled in on Wednesday.
Yeah, TJ Lateef has the hamstring injury, and those are nagging. They can take some time. Lateef is not going to practice, and you wonder next week and the week after they're going to have full weeks of practice. There's no Dylan Raiola. There's probably going to be no TJ Lateef for either week of practice. So you're going to be rolling with Jalen Gramstad running the show with Marcos Davilo and some other walk-on quarterbacks behind the scenes. So not an ideal situation. You really hope that Lateef's hamstring can get healed up. Nebraska's obviously got a world-class recovery facility here, but they're going to need a healthy TJ Lateef that can run if it's Las Vegas. I was going to say Las Vegas, but we still got to wait till Sunday.
If it's Las Vegas, yeah. And, with the TJ Lateef thing, now Matt Rule was saying that this first week of practice, TJ Lateef probably wouldn't have done much anyways because it's a big development week. Now, when we said Las Vegas, we don't know for sure, but the official bowl announcements come out Sunday, but all signs point to Viva Las Vegas.
Yeah, it appears that's the case. And Matt Rule said we're going to play a good opponent. Wink, wink, Utah. We're going to play on the 31st. Well, the Las Vegas Bowl's on the 31st. The Music City Bowl's on the 30th. Yeah. So I think internally within the program, they have a very good idea. It's going to be Las Vegas, and they have a pretty good idea it's going to be Utah. And for the organizers of that bowl, it's a no-brainer. It could be one of the larger attended non-playoff bowl games of any of them, which, the last time I checked, bowl games are a business. And, I know Illinois won one more game than Nebraska, but Illinois going to Nashville makes more sense now, too, because that's only a 5-hour drive for their fan base, where the Huskers have a great West Coast contingent. We've seen that. They've kind of got a Army base of 20,000 fans that will go anywhere on the West Coast.
And it's close for Utah as well, but we'll finally get the official announcement on Sunday when the bowl selections are revealed.